He says it with a smirk. I'm a lawyer. The courtroom goes quiet. He isn't. Not yet. Not even close. He's a 22-year-old law student with a borrowed tie, a half-zipped backpack at his feet, and a parking ticket that should have cost him maybe a couple $100s. Instead, it's about to cost him something much bigger. His ego. Judge Caprio leans back in his chair and studies the young man in front of him. The judge's glasses sit low on his nose, his hands folded, his voice measured. You're a lawyer? The judge asks. The student, Danilo Raza, third-year law student, self-appointed king of his debate club, shrugs. Well, almost, Your Honor. I know the law. I know my rights. And honestly, this is kind of a waste of time. There it is. A murmur rolls through the courtroom benches. A woman in the second row shakes her head. An older man lets out a soft, disbelieving chuckle. The clerk's eyes dart up from the docket. The judge doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't slam the gavel, he just lets the silence do the shouting. On the prosecution table, a monitor glows with body cam footage, security camera clips, a timeline ledger frozen on the screen. This is not just a parking ticket anymore. The charge reads, failure to yield at a crosswalk, reckless driving near a school zone, disrespectful conduct toward a police officer, and buried inside that case file, in a police report and a shaky audio recording, is the first time he said it. I'm a lawyer. You can't talk to me like that. Cameras don't take sides. They take truth. In the gallery, a woman clutches her purse a little tighter. Her name is Ms. Elena Cruz, a single mother, hospital nurse, and the person whose 8-year-old daughter was inches from that front bumper. She sits very still. Her jaw is tense. Her eyes are not. Judge Caprio looks at Danilo, then at the screen, then back at the young man, trying very hard to look unimpressed and failing. The judge exhales slowly. Mr. Raza, he says, today, we are going to find out if you really know the law or if you just know how to talk over people. The clerk swallows. Somewhere in the back row, someone hits record on their phone. This is the moment that will later be clipped, captioned, and shared millions of times as, I'm a lawyer. Arrogant student tries to escape. Judge Caprio says W.T.F. What no one knows yet, not the student, not the mother, not even the judge, is that this won't just be a fine or a lecture or a viral video. It will be the day a would-be lawyer meets what the law actually demands of him. Not clever words. Not loopholes. Character. If stories like this remind you why justice matters, tap subscribe so you never miss the truth behind these courtroom moments. The courtroom doors swing open with a soft metallic creak. All rise. The bailiff's voice fills the chamber. Wooden benches scrape. People stand, some out of habit, some out of respect, a few out of sheer intimidation. Providence Municipal Court is now in session, the Honorable Judge Frank Caprio presiding. The judge takes his seat. His robe is simple. No theatrics. Just a man in his 80s with decades of cases in his eyes and a way of talking that makes even the most nervous defendant feel like he's sitting across from a grandfather, who also happens to control their fate. Be seated, he says. The clerk flips through the docket. Case number 24 to 3187. City of Providence versus Danilo A. Raza. The camera pans. If you're watching this as a video, you see it clearly. A young man steps forward. Dark hair, carefully styled. A crisp white shirt he probably ironed 3 times. He walks up with the stiff, overconfident posture of someone who has watched too many legal dramas and not enough real court. Beside him, an empty space. No lawyer. Behind him, his mother sits on the edge of the bench, her scarf carefully pinned, her hands twisted together in a nervous knot. State your name for the record, the clerk says. Danilo Raza. Third-year law student. He adds. Unprompted, the judge raises an eyebrow. Law school isn't part of your name, Mr. Raza, he says calmly. Just your name will do. A faint laugh ripples in the room. Danilo's jaw tightens. Already, you can feel it. He came here to impress. The room isn't impressed. Across the aisle, the city prosecutor, Ms. Lauren Bates, stands ready. She has a stack of files, a calm expression, and the kind of experience that doesn't need to announce itself. In the second row, Ms. Cruz sits with her daughter's backpack on her lap, a tiny unicorn patch staring up at the ceiling lights. The judge looks down at the paperwork. All right, Mr. Raza. You're here today on charges of reckless driving in a school zone, failure to yield at a crosswalk, and disorderly conduct. How do you plead? Denial clears his throat. Not guilty, Your Honor. On all counts. Yes, Your Honor. This is, honestly, a misunderstanding. And, with all due respect, the officer exaggerated. I know my rights. I study this, sir. The judge tilts his head. You study this, he repeats. That's good. Let's see what the law has to teach you today. He nods toward the prosecutor. Ms. Bates, you may proceed. The lights dim slightly as the monitor at the front of the courtroom comes to life. Your Honor, the prosecutor begins. We will be showing the court body cam footage, security surveillance, and a timeline ledger of the events of March 14th, 8:03 a.m. outside Lincoln Elementary School. On the screen, a digital timeline appears, 8:02:16 a.m. Timestamp, school zone lights active point 8:02:49 a.m. Silver sedan enters school zone, traveling 37 mph 8:03:01 a.m. Child steps off curb at crosswalk, point 8:03:03 a.m. Vehicle brakes sharply, stops within feet of crosswalk, point 8:03:48 a.m. Officer body cam activated, point 8:04:10 a.m. Verbal exchange begins. The judge watches intently. Play the tape, he says. Timestamp 8 hours 3 minutes and 48 seconds a.m. Body cam audio excerpt. The video shows a school sidewalk. Parents, backpacks, traffic. The silver sedan jerks to a stop. A little girl freezes in the crosswalk, eyes wide. Her mother, Ms. Cruz, instantly yanks her back. From the other side, Officer Daniels approaches the driver's window. Morning, sir. License and registration, please, the officer says. Denial's voice comes through the speakers, slightly distorted. Why? I didn't do anything. The light was green. Sir, you were speeding in a school zone and failed to yield at the crosswalk. License and registration. I yielded, Denial snaps. I stopped. She's fine. And I'm a lawyer. You can't just… You're a lawyer? The officer asks. Yes, Denial says, with that now familiar edge. I know the law. You're wasting my time. I've got an exam. This is harassment. Inside the courtroom, Denial shifts his weight. His throat tightens as his own words echo through the speakers. Projected larger than his own body, he glances sideways, just for a moment, toward Ms. Cruz. She doesn't look at him, but on the video, you hear Ms. Cruz's voice tremble. He almost hit my daughter, she tells the officer, her accent thick but clear. He didn't slow down. She was right there. The monitor freezes on the frame where the car is inches from the crosswalk line. The little girl's foot is in midair. The judge leans forward. Zoom in, he says. The image tightens. Space shrinks. The distance between the bumper and that child's life, or death, becomes painfully obvious. Pattern interrupt. The narrator, me, talking to you watching this, cuts in. 3 contradictions are already exposed. I didn't do anything. The footage shows a speeding car in a school zone. I yielded. The car stops almost on top of the crosswalk, not before it. I'm a lawyer. He isn't. Yet. And he's using the title not to protect rights, but to escape responsibility. Cameras don't care how smart you sound. They care what actually happened. Back in the courtroom, the judge breaks the silence. Mr. Raza, he says quietly. Do you deny that this is you in the footage? Denial swallows. No, Your Honor. But the angle. The judge's tone sharpens just a fraction. The angle or the attitude. Denial's jaw flexes, then relaxes. He tries to recover. With respect, Your Honor, officers sometimes overstate things to justify a ticket. I was under the speed limit. I stopped. No one was hurt. And I am practically a lawyer. I know my rights. I know what constitutes actual endangerment and what doesn't. The judge holds up a hand. Stop. The word lands like a gavel. First, the judge says, you are not a lawyer. You are a law student. Second, knowing the law does not give you the right to endanger people. Third, no one being hurt doesn't mean no one was in danger. He turns his gaze to Ms. Cruz. Ms. Cruz, he says gently, would you come forward? Please. She stands, shaky but composed, and approaches the front of the courtroom. Her fingers brush the unicorn patch on the backpack. Ma'am, the judge says, in your own words, what happened that morning? Her voice trembles at first, then steadies. I was walking my daughter, Isabel, to school, she says. The lights were flashing. We waited. We looked. Then we started crossing. The car, it didn't slow. It just came. I grabbed her. If I didn't, she stops, swallows. Maybe she's not here. She looks at Denial. Just once he looks away. Remember our title? I'm a lawyer. Arrogant student tries to escape. Judge Caprio says W.T.F. We're not at the W.T.F. part yet, because what he actually says is quieter and somehow hits harder. The judge nods slowly. Thank you, Ms. Cruz. You may have a seat. She returns to the bench, holding the backpack like a shield. The judge faces Denial. Mr. Raza, you say you know the law, he begins. Let me remind you of something they may not have taught you yet. He leans in. The law is not a shield for your ego. It is a shelter for people like that little girl. Denial's eyes drop, that he shifts, fidgets with his tie, then makes one more mistake. With respect, Your Honor, I think this is being blown out of proportion for the cameras, he says. This feels more like a show than a hearing. The courtroom air changes, even through a screen. You can feel it, like someone scraped a metal chair across tile. The judge goes very still. He doesn't shout. But if you listen closely, this is the moment you can almost hear what his expression is saying. What? If you believe accountability should transform people, not just punish them, hit subscribe so more viewers see stories where justice becomes change. The judge takes off his glasses. Mr. Raza, he says, each word carefully placed. Let me explain something to you. His voice is soft, but his eyes are steel. This court is not a reality show. These cameras are not here for ratings. They are here so the public can see what justice looks like. The good, the bad, and the foolish. Today, you are very close to the third category. A nervous laugh flickers in the gallery, then dies quickly. You came into this courtroom, the judge continues, using the word lawyer like a magic spell, as if it puts you above ordinary people, above officers, above terrified mothers, above an 8-year-old child. He points gently toward the screen, where the frozen frame still shows the car and the child's foot. If that little girl had been struck, Mr. Raza, no exam, no degree, no clever argument would change what the law would call you. Not lawyer, not student, not even driver. Just one word. He pauses. Killer. The room goes silent. Denial's shoulders slump. His bravado evaporates. Bit by exposed bit, the judge continues, voice now carrying something almost like sorrow. You want to be a lawyer? Let me tell you what a lawyer really is, he says. A lawyer is someone the most frightened person in that room can trust to protect them, not someone a traffic officer has to argue with while a child is still shaking on the sidewalk. He nods to the clerk. Madam Clerk, pull up the police log for March 14th. On the screen, a new document appears. Police log, March 14th, 8 a.m. School zone patrol begins 8:03 a.m. Near miss at crosswalk. Vehicle silver sedan, plate. 8:04 a.m. Driver argumentative. Claims to be a lawyer. Refuses initial instructions 8:07 a.m. Child and guardian escorted to sidewalk. Both visibly shaken 8:11 a.m. Citation issued. Incident logged as reckless driving. Near collision, the judge looks back at Denial. You see, Mr. Raza, this law doesn't care about your GPA, your internship, your TikTok followers. It cares what you did. He taps the bench lightly. So here's what we're going to do. This is where most people expect the hammer. Huge fine. License suspension. Maybe a contempt finding. What happens instead is different. Not softer, just sharper. Mr. Raza, the judge says, on the reckless driving and failure to yield charges, this court finds you guilty. On the disorderly conduct charge, I am going to hold that in abeyance for now. Denial nods. Barely, he looks like the ground just tilted a few degrees under his feet. However, the judge continues, I am going to exercise this court's discretion in sentencing. I am less concerned with taking your money than I am with fixing your judgment. He folds his hands. Here is your sentence. You can almost hear the whole room lean in. First, the judge says, you will pay a fine of $300. Not because it hurts you, but because the city has to enforce the law somehow. Second, you will perform 60 hours of community service at the public defender's office or a court-approved legal aid clinic. You will not argue cases. You will sit and watch and see what real desperation looks like. Denial blinks. Third, the judge continues, I am ordering you to attend a 12-week counseling and ethics seminar sponsored by your law school's professional responsibility program. They will submit a completion letter to this court. The judge's eyes soften, just a little. And finally, he says, you are going to create something. Something? Denial repeats. Yes, the judge says. You are going to work with the school and the city's media office to create a public service announcement, a short video for high school and college students who drive near schools. In that video, you will explain exactly what you did wrong. You will not glamorize yourself. You will not play the victim. You will tell them this. He lifts the file and taps it. You almost took a life and tried to talk your way out of it by saying 4 words. I'm a lawyer. I know the law. Then you will look into that camera and you will say what you've learned since. Denial's voice is smaller now. And if I refuse? He asks quietly. The judge doesn't blink. Then I will enter the maximum permissible penalties, he says. And I will forward a transcript of today's proceedings and the body cam footage to your law school's disciplinary committee and the state bar's character and fitness board. The words hit like a cold bucket of water. This is not just a traffic ticket to you anymore. Mr. Raza, the judge says. This is your future license on the line. He leans forward, eyes kinder now, but no less firm. I am giving you a chance not to escape justice, he says, but to be changed by it. Don't waste it. He looks past the young man, to the back row. Ms. Cruz, he says, if you wish, you can address the court one last time. She rises. She doesn't shout. She doesn't curse. She just says, in a voice that breaks halfway through, I don't want him ruined, she says. I just want him to remember my daughter. Every time he sees a crosswalk. The judge nods. So, ordered, he says. Quietly, the gavel finally comes down. Point 3. Weeks later, the courthouse looks different when you're not standing in front of the bench. You see it in wide angles instead of tunnel vision. In a cramped office in the public defender's wing, Denial sits at a metal desk. Sorting through files, he hears things here he never heard in his debate rounds. If I lose this, I can't see my kids. I can't afford the fine. I'll lose my job. No, I didn't understand my rights when I signed that. He watches a real lawyer, tired but patient, explain the law in language people can actually understand. Point 1 afternoon. The public defender, Mr. Hayes, looks up at him. So you're the I'm a lawyer kid from the traffic clip, huh? He asks, almost amused. Denial flushes. Yeah, he mutters. Hayes doesn't mock him. He just nods toward the waiting area. Good, he says. Then you can start by refilling the coffee and listening twice as much as you talk. That's the first lesson they don't teach in law school. 6 weeks later, in a small classroom at the law school, Denial sits in a circle with other students for the court-ordered ethics seminar. They watch clips, attorneys lying to judges and being sanctioned, lawyers using their status to bully clients, witnesses, even staff, stories of people hurt, not by the law, but by the arrogance of those who wield it. When it's his turn to speak, he tells the story that he doesn't embellish, that he doesn't defend, that he says, I thought being almost a lawyer meant I was above people. Now I think it means I'll never be above an apology. A professor scribbles a note. He might actually get it. 3 months later, the public service announcement premieres at Lincoln Elementary's parent night and on the city's social media page. The video opens with a close-up of a crosswalk sign blinking. Then you see him. Denial, no suit, just a simple shirt. No titles on screen. No future attorney text, just his name. My name is Denial, he says, looking into the camera, voice steady but sincere. Earlier this year, I almost hit a little girl because I was in a hurry and I thought my knowledge of the law mattered more than her safety. Footage from the school zone plays. The same frame we saw in court that he continues. I told the officer, I'm a lawyer. I know the law, but I didn't act like someone who respects it. I acted like someone who hides behind it. If you drive near a school, slow down. Those kids don't care what you're studying. They just want to get to class alive. In the audience, Ms. Cruz watches with her daughter beside her. The little girl squeezes her hand. After the screening, she approaches him. Do you remember me? She asks. He nods, eyes lowering. Yes, ma'am, he says. I think about you and your daughter every time I start my car. She studies him for a long moment. Good, she says softly. Then maybe something good came out of that day. 6 months later, a quiet memo circulates through the city government. New policy. All school zone traffic incidents involving near misses to children will trigger an automatic review and, where appropriate, educational sentencing options in addition to fines. Behind that policy, buried in a footnote, there's a case cited, City of Providence versus D. A. Raza, 2024. No one on TikTok reads that footnote, but in the system, it matters. 1 year later, in a packed lecture hall, new first-year law students shuffle to their seats. On the screen at the front, instead of the usual slideshow, a video starts. It's the same PSA. After it plays, the dean steps up to the podium. Law is not a costume you put on to feel important, she says. It is a responsibility you accept to protect people. We've invited a third-year student to tell you what happens when you forget that. Denial walks to the front. He looks older, just 1 year, but you can see it, less polished, more grounded. He tells them the story. He doesn't leave out the worst part. I said, I'm a lawyer, when I wasn't, he admits. But more importantly, I said it like it meant. I'm better than you. That's the moment I stopped acting like the kind of lawyer I wanted to be. In the back row, a student who had watched the clip online whispers, wait, that's him? Another one leans forward, listening a little closer. 3 years later, the bar exam results are posted. He passes. There's a moment where he just stares at his name on the list, Raza, Denial A, and thinks about how close he came to never seeing it there. Later that year, he appears in court again, same building, different side. He's now a junior attorney in the public defender's office. On this day, he's standing next to a nervous 19-year-old who got into trouble with a stupid, reckless prank, spray painting, over a stop sign near a busy intersection. The prosecutor asks for a heavy fine and 6 months license suspension. The judge, different from Caprio this time, considers counsel. The judge says to Denial, why should I believe your client won't just treat this as a slap on the wrist? Denial glances at the young man, then back at the judge. Your Honor, he says, 3 years ago, someone in this very building asked me a similar question. And the answer was, because someone gave me a sentence that didn't just punish me. It forced me to see who I might become if I didn't change. He outlines a proposal, community service, a road safety education project, a presentation at the boys' school about consequences. The judge agrees. As they leave the courtroom, the kid mutters, man, that judge was tough. Denial smiles faintly. Yeah, he says. Sometimes tough is the most merciful thing you'll ever get. 10 years later, there's a framed photograph on a shelf in a modest office. It's a picture of Judge Caprio shaking hands with a much younger Denial on the courthouse steps. The caption reads, justice that teaches is justice that lasts. Outside the office window, you can see the courthouse dome. Inside, on the wall, hangs a law license. On the desk, a stack of files, clients who can't afford lawyers but desperately need one. A knock on the door. A nervous intern pokes her head in. Attorney Raza, she says, sorry to bother you. I saw a clip of you online. From years ago. The I'm a lawyer one. He winces. It's still out there, huh? He says. She nods. Yeah, but so is the PSA. And the story about your sentencing. Honestly, it's why I applied to this office. I wanted to learn from someone who messed up and changed, not someone who was perfect. He pauses, then laughs softly. Well, he says, you've definitely come to the right place for mistakes. They walk toward the courthouse together. On the crosswalk outside Lincoln Elementary, cars crawl at a careful, respectful pace. A driver in a hurry taps his steering wheel. Annoyed at the slow traffic, he glances at a roadside sign with a QR code and a caption, slow down. One choice can change a life. If he scans it, he'll see a short video. A young man confessing how close he came to tragedy because he thought being almost a lawyer meant the rules bent around him. Most drivers don't scan it, but enough do, and every kid who makes it safely across that crosswalk is part of a ripple that started, strangely enough, with arrogance and 4 reckless words. That's what people don't see when they swipe past the title, I'm a lawyer. Arrogant student tries to escape. Judge Caprio says, W.T.F. They see the viral moment. What they miss is the years after, the community service, the classes, the policy changes, the scared students, the safe crosswalks, the long, quiet work of justice. If you believe justice must stay fair, fearless, and human, like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe for more courtroom stories that reveal the truth. And tell me in the comments, do you think what happened to Daniel Raza was right or not? Your opinion matters, because at the end of the day, justice isn't loud. It's precise.